Has Futurama gone woke? I honestly don't know. And I don't think they know either. I don't think they can come down onto a side of pro or con woke, and they're trying to make fun of both, trying to go that middle road, stay on that line, and I don't know if they've stuck the landing. Well, it's finally happened. Finally got to the COVID episode of Futurama. What's up, everybody? This is Mike, Tree's Company, here doing more reviews for Futurama episode 7 and 8. And yeah, Futurama episode 7, all COVID jokes and everything. Episode 8, it's about cancel culture. So, one thing, COVID kind of played out. Cancel culture, still a subject I think you can make a show about, but let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, episode 7, Futurama. So this episode go ahead and starts out with the mayor of New York, of New York, saying, "Hey, it's 3023. We're finally officially done with COVID-19. But now there's a new virus, explosive 23. Exploded? This was whatever, COVID, explosive COVID. 23. The symptoms of it are sudden violent anger and a minor cough. So a lot of the episode is pretty much just about how, in these during and post COVID times, there's just a lot of division and anger and everything. So they make lots of kind of jokes about that. It really hits the COVID jokes hard right in the middle. Oh, not in the middle, right in the beginning. And then it kind of, you think they're kind of done with it in the middle, or it kind of turns into Hermes thinking it's actually a form of zombieism. So we're just kind of thrown in there, and that the only thing to heal it is voodoo. People are like, "Oh, voodoo's crazy." That they thought that stuff was crazy and stupid back in Fry's time. There's no way voodoo's a thing now, and so Hermes goes on his own adventure to find voodoo. There's lots of New Orleans and heavy Jamaican jokes and puns and voodoo stuff. Turns out his wife is very good at voodoo, and they do a lot more Barbados Slim cucking Hermes jokes because Barbados Slim shows up again. But then at the end, they kind of bring it all back around to hitting COVID hard again. And I don't know. So I watched the episode twice. Watched it fairly in the morning, did some stuff throughout the day, and then watched it again. I thought it was funnier the first time. Second time watching it, it just felt dated. It's hard when you think of COVID and you try to make jokes about misinformation, vaccines, even the division, everyone being divided and angry stuff. It is hard to not take anything at any sort of personal or political bias or whatever. Everyone's got their things with COVID. So not only is it a disease that was going to date this episode. I don't think it's going to become one of their timeless classics. Not only is that, it's also a subject that's very hard to do and kind of be able to make fun of or take both sides of the argument or anything like that. And they tried. They did. Um, like they had jokes about when Farnsworth tries to mix a vaccine, the mayor of New York going like, "Finally, a vaccine to fix my poll numbers." And a lot of uh, what the journalists were making fun of, like making up rumors about, were all actually true. And it was like Farnsworth and Wernstrom trying to be like, "Well, this is just a feature," making going like, "I heard that your vaccine makes people sterile," and Wernstrom being like, "Well, that's just an extra feature because everyone knows babies is what makes you the angriest." Yeah, and stuff like that. I heard there was 5G microchips in there to try to make Dr. Banjo be like Alex Jones or Seth Rogen. It's Dr. Banjo going, I'm just like, is making jokes about, he's bringing facts that he made up himself and going, "Dr. Farnsworth, what do you say about this claim that I'm just now making up that there's 5G chips in your vaccine?" Farnsworth goes, "Oh, of course there are. How else are you say how else is it supposed to detect you have the disease and then put a lock from the lasers in space to kill it?" My terrible delivery. But it was stuff like that. It was like it's like we are like, they tried, they really did, and then they also, you know, whole punchline of the joke is that, you know, voodoo, they basically voodoo their way into making a vaccine that's similar to the actual COVID and real life vaccine thing, and making a statement about how, you know, highly practiced magic stuff is indiscernible to science. Some weird thing, basically, kind of pretty much basically going pro vaccine at the end, even um, even though they were very much willing to make fun of it. And then having the extreme right, Dr. Branger, be like, "Can you assure me that there's absolutely no science in this voodoo at all?" Before he got it. Um, but then they still have Farnsworth. They put all the crazy conspiracy stuff in. It's weird. They do have some good subtle Futurama jokes. How, like Amy saying, "I don't want to point fingers," and she points her toes at somebody, at Leela. There are good moments. There's good classic Futurama moments. They've tried taking both sides of the argument, but it didn't quite. To me, it didn't quite land. It's a lot like when South Park tried doing it. It just didn't quite land. The poking fun of the left or the right or however you come down on COVID. It just it just didn't seem it. I don't know. It just didn't work for me personally. I didn't think it was terrible. I think you can turn your brain off, put it on as background noise, and when you like consciously go back onto it, you might find something to smile or chuckle at. But I think it's I think it's kind of a whiff of a thought. I think it's a little late in the game. I think maybe a year ago it could have been better, but right now it's kind of like, yeah, big deal. These are the Simpsons guys or Futurama guys and their take on COVID things. Whatever. So yeah, it's not as bad as I thought it would be and was worried about, but definitely not as good as I was hoping they could potentially do with it. Even though I don't have high hopes for anything trying to tackle COVID jokes. But yeah. So from that, let's go on and move on to Futurama episode 8, which is all about cancel culture and canceling Zap Brannigan. Well, I didn't even write many notes for this one. Um, Once again, it's kind of a forgettable episode. There wasn't really lessons learned. There wasn't really like a cancel culture's stupid, or no, you should be more aware of people's feelings from words, how people feel from the words you use and things. And it's, I don't know. It seems like they were afraid to come down on one side or the other, and it just kind of Zap didn't really learn much of a lesson because it which makes sense for Zap, but he also did make jokes about Leela, how Leela's the best employee in future of Planet Express. They have like uh weird things about consent and groping in it. Um, I don't know. It was a Leela heavy episode, which in my opinion are always kind of the most meh episodes in Futurama. Um, yeah, there's not really a whole lot to say about it. So it's, Zap it opens with the Nimbus is fighting a ship made entirely out of fire, and in order to think of a solution to win, because their lasers just passing right through it, Zap decides to take a shower on the bridge, and in doing so, he's he's doing his usual Zap stuff and beating up on Kif, and he goes, "Oh." Looks at the shower head and go, water, fire is mortal enemy, so fire water at the ship. Turns out because of his showers, he has used all the water on the ship. And so Zap gives up, but when he's signing the I surrender thing, he pricks Kif, who starts leaking, and so Zap decides to use Kif as a bucket of water to put out the flame aliens. And that is the final straw for Kif, who files a formal complaint. There's a trial at Dupe. Of course, the chicken lawyer's there. And the joke of it is that the chicken lawyer's the lawyer for both Kif and Brannigan. And then outcome of the trial is Zap gets canceled. So then Leela, who is depressed that she is the only employee of the month at Planet Express, decides to becomes the new captain of the Nimbus, and they go to a planet to do a peaceful thing of they do a peaceful mission at a planet where the aliens that are made are basically just balloons with little nub jewels on them that they can turn into hands, and they like groping people. And Zap goes to sensitivity and awareness training. Hijinks ensue. Turns out Dupe just wants the air from the balloon planet because there's no air in space except for burps and farts. And Leela doesn't want to do the groping of peace with them. And Zap's sensitivity training, turns out the teacher of the training, the train whatever, um, who is trying to who comes in saying, "Hi, I'm the sensitivity trainer," and his whole thing is, "I'm going to be so bad to you, you'll finally feel what it's like, and you'll never want to be bad to people again." Turns out he is just a bad man who hogtied the actual sensitivity teacher and was trying to and went to go screw over Dupe, who wanted the air from the planet, so he hijacked their simulation, which turned out to be a real ship. Went to the planet and was going to throw a very smelly fruit into the core of the planet that is the frozen gas that gives off the air and make it ruined because now it's going to smell terrible. And when Dupe says, "Oh, kill him," Leela doesn't want to because there's innocents nearby. They reinstate Zap as captain for Zap to kill him, and Zap goes, "Oh no, I'm a changed man because the training was so good." So they put the guy who's holding the planet hostage as captain, and then he orders fire onto himself, killing himself. Leela, gets the fruit, or it falls into the air hole of the planet and saves the day. And that, even though, but since she disobeyed orders, she gets discharged and a Medal of Honor, and Zap is back as captain as Nimbus. And that's the episode. Um, no, I'm not that entertaining or funny when delivering the plots, and it seems kind of like just hearing it off, kind of like, what? It is very Futurama. Cancel culture right now is something you can make fun of. I feel like there's a lot of things on about today, about the world and today right now you can make fun of, but um, I don't know. It just didn't. It was so both episodes 7 and 8 felt so packed full of jokes, and like the writers were like, "Ooh, we're really cooking with the jokes," but they didn't have enough time to tell them or something. Like they probably could have made this one a two-parter. Episode 8, they probably could have made two-parter, found a way. Um, I thank God they didn't try to make the COVID one a two-parter, and they could have flushed it out. They could have sent like made some more jokes about how cancel culture can be good and effective for people who deserve it. Um, and that, but then also there are plenty of people who it's dumb to have it happen to. Have it like have like Zap is a good character that you can be like, oh yeah, cancel culture should happen to you. And then after Leela becomes captain, they try to cancel her too for not a good reason, and you can have a middle of the road argument and lesson and good thing that way. But it was just so weird. It felt rushed. Both of them did. They were just trying to get next joke to next joke to next joke. Um, there was some continuity errors, but the Futurama, it's easier to forgive that. And it's not as good as the. I think they're probably better than the Christmas episode before, but they're not as good as the one before that, the Amazon one. Um, but yeah, so far Futurama, I still think it's mid. You know, I do out of 10, 6 out of 10 so far the whole season as a whole. It's very mid. It's not a huge splash of a return so far. I think it's a season that very much dates itself. It's a season that is of references to the last like 3 years and the last 3 years only. A couple, yearless sprinkled in things, or like timeless sprinkled in episodes. But for the most part, it has not really wowed me. But yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot else to say. I think the writing is okay. It's comprehensive. I mean, I think the writing is better than a lot of the writing we've gotten from other shows lately. It's just dated and rushed, and just packed with too much jokes. They just because they're not as clever. They are very much set up punchline, set up punchline, set up punchline, and it was weird. Yeah, I don't know. The voice acting's still good. I still think Billy West doing Zap, you can kind of when he does the Zap voice, you can hear he's gotten older. His Zap voice isn't as good as before. Bender was barely in 8. Um, and yeah, well, I don't want this video to run too long, so I'm going to go ahead and say bye for now. Let me know what you think in the comments about just the episodes in general, about everything, and let me know. Do you think Futurama has gone woke? I I still don't know. I see it, but I also don't. And genuinely, I'm looking for everyone's opinion. Let me know what you think about the season so far. I think it's mid, 6 out of 10. Hasn't landed, hasn't made a big splash, isn't their funniest, isn't their best. But maybe that's just me. Let me know what you think. Make sure you subscribe and like the video. Hit the notification bell, and we will see you next time. Bye.